Okay, next up we've got Dom from Hexos. Hi Dom, you all right?
Yeah.
Right, so you're here to talk about a new digital service that you've built over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I'm just like getting used to holding this microphone.
No,
it's all good.
About fist away, they say.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
So the service, well, should we start with a story maybe?
Yeah, that's... so there's two problems here really. There's a larger one and a more specific problem. The more general problem is that a couple of months ago it came to my attention that there's a heck of a lot of data out there, specifically public transport data, that people just are not using to the best of their ability. For example, companies and businesses they've got access to this data, potentially even free, but they could just spend hours, months just sifting through it to come to no proper conclusion, or they have got software already installed in their kind of offices that's not really using this data properly.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because companies want really slick systems to be able to visualize this data. As you identified, data visualization is pretty key at the moment, and it can really help with business decisions. Sorry, it keeps drifting away from me.
It's all right.
And
embrace the microphone.
Yeah. And the more specific problem here, actually, I'm going to give a slight bit of background. I'm 18. I've just finished my A-levels at UTC, which you may have heard of as a technical college, which is over by Meadowhall, and it specialises in computing. So, it kind of explains why I'm here.
Yeah.
But a lot of students come to UTC via public transport, and public transport's one of those. It's kind of hard to know where you can get from using public transport, because somebody could actually get from London to here really quickly, but somebody that's maybe in the middle of the Peak District can't get there in that same sort of time. Really hard to know what's going on with public transport. It's pretty random. Yeah. UTC wanted a good way of knowing which areas they could recruit from, and they were completely missing out recruiting from Maltby. And people from Maltby could actually get there quicker than me, which is quite frustrating. But they needed a way to prove that people could get from certain places, so they could take this up to senior leadership and start recruiting from new places.
Okay, so you're an A-level student at the UTC doing computing and other things, and you found out that there was this issue where the UTC weren't sure which schools they should be trying to recruit from to bring new students to the Olympic Legacy Park, which is where that UTC is based.
Yeah, exactly. And stupidly, I decided to start programming solution just as I started doing my exams. And that probably brings us on to our next slide. So I have created a solution, and to put it simply, Public Transport Heatmap is an online service that creates heat maps to visualize public transport commute times anywhere in the UK, any time of day and any day of the week. That's
public
a brief.
Transport heat maps. Cuprinol are based here in Sheffield, right?
Pardon?
It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
It's a classic Sheffield thing to say. So you produce public transport heat maps to show all sorts of different organisations how long it would take someone to get from anywhere in a certain radius.
So for example, you can probably see from these images, I don't know how good they are up there, not doing brilliantly, but pretty much these compare the travel departing at 6 a.m. and departing at, arriving in the centre of Sheffield at 6 a.m. and arriving in the centre at 8:30 a.m. And even in that two and a half hours, you can see a major difference in where you can get from. So you can imagine taking this, getting a couple of times in one day, and then comparing that with a weekend. For example, I ran one for my hometown of Stocksbridge, and I did it for arriving at 7 a.m. in the morning. It was laughable. You had to walk. The only things it showed were walking. I was like, it's brilliant. It was absolutely no public transport
for
reason.
local authorities and bus companies to be able to understand how effective the transport system is, this is really useful. But do they not already have this? Why?
Weirdly, places don't have this. The only thing the closest thing that is already existing are a kind of isoline maps, right. But they're showing really average data, and it's data that you can't really use. And what's so special about, well, I think so special about these maps is that they're based off departure and arrival times. A lot of ISO lines are just moving time. Now, I know some of my friends at
So they're averaged over a long
they're sort of, they might be averaged through the day, or they might just exclude transfer times and stuff like that. What's really, really good about these maps is that they consider when you actually need to set off by to arrive by that time. Because I've got friends at UTC that could get there, they have to get to UTC 40 minutes before the start of that school day. If they got a later bus, they'd be late. Yeah. But these heat maps are showing this, so they're showing accurate kind of travel times.
So basically, it shows you where it's okay to live to get to the UTC on time.
Pretty much.
Where it really isn't. And some of the places that aren't okay to live are, geographically much closer than places like Maltby.
Yeah.
That happens to have, really good public transport links that they would never have known about otherwise.
Pretty much.
Okay. So you built this in your spare time while you were at school doing your A-levels?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll talk a bit about how it was made. I did some work experience at Hive IT, and they introduced me to the world of AWS, and I thought, this is awesome. It was like life-changing compared to what I'd kind of been looking at school and stuff like that. Yeah. I thought, let's build something with AWS, and I've been able to create a really, really high-speed cloud system that can generate these heat maps there and then for you. For example, my largest size of heat map I can create in 20 minutes.
Really?
Using
what kind of radius and
so my largest heat map is 75 kilometer radius.
Wow.
So it's covering something like 17,000 square kilometers of data points, which is fairly big.
Yeah, and you can push that out inside 20 minutes. Yeah,
so I've created a web application that's hosted on Heroku, and you can just log in, create an account, and they've got a huge dashboard, and using payment codes you can go in, request heat maps, you get an email letting you know, we started work on it, and then you get an email letting you know to come back to the website. There's an online interactive version that you can go on, like Google Maps, you can interact with it, click on it, and then also there's a folder that you can download with loads and loads and loads of high definition images, as well as I give you the raw GeoJSON data, so you can go away and do way more colourful things than I have.
You could import it into Alira if you wanted to. So you haven't just built this as a proof of concept then, you've built this as a proper service?
In about 2 weeks since I decided to do it, I had a local version running. Yeah. And then I thought, no, we can do more than this. There's more than just UTC who could use this, which probably takes us on to the next slide, which really, it can be used by a lot of people, and I imagine some of you already thought of other use cases. Some being such as homeowners. They've just moved to a new town, you've just moved to Sheffield, you've got a job in the city centre. I want to find a house. Let's generate a heat map very quickly. I can see where are good places to go. I can compare that with kind of crime rates or house prices, and there you go, you can really home down on a place to get a home. And I've also been talking to companies such as Stantec, who are a city planning company, and they can use these heat maps potentially overlaid with postcode data as to kind of suggest where to place new council buildings, or if business are relocating, things like that. And also I'm looking at putting new transport routes over these heat maps. So let's say someone's come up with a new bus route. We'll put that on the top of this heat map, so you've got like a before and an after. Okay. And that can be hugely valuable to them.
So you could account for changes that haven't been made yet. So, prospective bus routes, they would affect the travel to work times, say.
Yeah, so for example, you had a heat map and it just had a huge blank area in it because there wasn't something there. And a company comes to me and says, we're actually thinking of putting this new bus route on. Let's see what that will actually look like realistically.
So where's the data coming from at the moment?
So the data's coming from Google. Okay. It is available from Google, and I am just manipulating that a lot to get to this current position.
Yeah. So you're polling Google from all of these different locations in a radius.
Yeah, so an average heat map can be made up of about 8,000 discrete journeys, and so it's created loads and loads of journeys. I just don't like the idea of averaging data. Yeah. What's wrong? Why do we have to average data? Sorry, that's just changed colour and it's freaking me out now. I just wanted to talk a bit about my time at UTC.
So this is, even for the UTC, as much as the UTC is a great school and it's great to have a computing school, or a vocational school that does computing, this isn't the norm that all UTC students would do this.
No.
It's not as uncommon as...
No, I think UTC really should and is the birthplace of things like this. It's such a great environment that promotes people actually going and creating these things. If you just stuck with education as it is, you might not actually create any... You'd get your basic kind of websites and stuff like that, but because UTC pull employers in, you're getting real life experiences, you're getting real life projects, and suddenly, within a month, you've been given a project by a company. You've got a month to turn it around, and it's fantastic because you're working your socks off to learn these new technologies.
Yeah, yeah. And you get exposed to the technologies like the ones you just showed us.
Yeah, and then you're getting the employer links as well.
That are used in, really large-scale systems, and they're not out of range of your ability to understand them and use them yourself.
UTC is absolutely fantastic.
So you've just done your A-levels?
I've just done my A-levels, and I'm now studying computer science at the University of Sheffield.
Brilliant.
So.
Fantastic. And I know you did very well in your A-levels as well, didn't you, John?
Yeah.
But you're carrying on with Hexos and building this platform.
Yeah, we'll just see where it goes. It's been fun. So.
Brilliant. Well, it's a brilliant story, and we wish you all the best. And
Thank you.
It's great to see a young entrepreneur in our tech scene. Thanks very much, Dom.
That's all right. Thank you.